Hello, my name's Phil. Welcome to the Land Rover Suspension DVD. Over the next hour or two we're going to be showing you how to fit suspension arms, springs, shocks, bushes, everything to do with your suspension. We're working on this, my old Defender, good old girl, she's been worked hard, which basically means if you've got a Range Rover Classic, coil sprung Defender or a Discovery one, all the suspension is basically the same, all the parts are basically the same, probably a few minor differences. So this DVD will show you what and how to do things, what you can and can't do, because there's a few things you can't do. I've got a couple of ideas to save you some money and allow you to do it in stages, so you haven't got to fork out the whole lump in one hit. So we'll set all the bits and bobs out on the floor that we're going to fit, and we'll have a look over them, explain roughly where they go, where they fit, and then we'll get cracking. Back in a sec. Right, here's our collection of components we're going to be fitting on the motor. Fabulous, it's like Christmas opening it all up on the floor, I promise you. Great stuff, wonderful colours, silver, blue, red, great. Right, okay, after you've got over the excitement of opening all your boxes, getting all the stuff on the floor ready to go, you've got to think about what you've got. Set it all out, make sure you've got all your bits and pieces you need in the kit. We've got Terra Firma Pro Sport long travel shocks. Everything here is plus 2 inches at the moment. We've got 2-inch springs, 50mm lift springs of the medium flavour. There is all sorts of flavours of springs and shocks. It's pretty much limitless, even up to nitrogen charged ones. These are the medium ones because this car's being used on Spanish 4x4expedition.com. It's got to be motorway fit, plus a little bit of off-road, do the odd rescue duty, and carry some kit as well, tow the trailers. So those are medium duty springs, and you can get normal duty and heavy duty. Those are medium. 2-inch extended shocks as well. Polybush anti-roll bar bushes at the back. I've got normal, quite hard rubber bushes for the shocks. We've got dislocation or relocation, whatever you want to call them, cones for the rear springs down the top, and base plate clamp for the spring, stop that going anywhere. So that's that. All nuts and bolts present, everything ready to go. It's going to look fabulous under there. I like the blue gaiters around the shocks as well, it's a nice colour. Heavy duty twin rear shock mounts. Now we're not fitting these and leaving them on the car, but we thought we'd demonstrate them going on so you can see what you've got to do. Smart looking bit of kit. That's the top mount, bolts to the car. This is the axle end. So we'll have a look at that. Comes with a fitting kit. Nice set of coloured poly bushes for the radius arms. These are cranked radius arms, the rear ones. They're quite smart as well, anodised. They fit in there with the sleeve, so we'll fit them. Don't look too difficult, but if we come across any issues, we'll point them out to you so that I have the problems rather than you. Don't forget to watch the whole DVD before you go ahead and do yours. Okay, let's rattle on with the list. Bump stop spacers. Nice simple bit of kit, self-explanatory. Lifting the car up 2 inches, put the bump stop down 2 inches so your shocks don't bottom out. Right, next. Rear radius arm, front end bushes. Different colours for different grades from Polybush, and we'll talk about that as we go. The man from Polybush sent us down, told him what we was going to do, and he sent us down the right colour for the job. So I'll explain what he explained to me as we go. Right, front arms. Different colour, different grade Polybush for the back end of that. Smart bit of kit. These are the Terra Firma cranked ones. They're already adjusted for the 2-inch lift. 2-inch lift is just about when you start to change the angles of your front axle. I'll explain that as we go. These are the caster correction bushes if you're using your original arms. You can see it's off centre. I'll show you the picture. See it's off centre. So we'll explain that as we go. So we're going to stick in the old arms. Bump stop spaces for the front, same as the rear, and nice looking bit of kit there. Twin shock mount for the front. That's the upper bracket, replaces the old turret, and this is the bottom mount. So we'll fit them and film every detail so you know exactly what you do before you start on yours. Heavy duty top ring, mounting ring. You'll see this all as it goes on the car. And front dislocation, relocation cones. Fits well. So that's that. We'll cover that in detail as well and give a demonstration of what happens where and how. Another spring clamp to hold the one end of the spring down. Front springs, we're doing a 110 I should say, so the rear springs are considerably more meaty than the front ones. These are 50mm, same as the others. Lovely colour again, smart looking bit of kit. Same shocks for the front, Pro Sport long travel. Love the blue gator, it's going to look smart on there. Even better when we've got two together, hooks on the front. Bushes for all of them. We've got poly bushes to go in the already caster corrected arms. So they go in there nice and easy, hopefully. Bit of grease, we'll get round that. Any problems we'll let you know. And the last few details for the front are just over there on the floor in front of the plastic bag is Panhard rod bushes. So you've seen what we've got, loads of stuff, loads of details to cover. There's about to be a few problems that we can get round on tape, save you some time and some bother. So, we'll get the car lifted up and we'll crack on, back in a sec. Right, I've got the old go up in the air, a lot easier with the wing off and the inner wing off, especially with the camera. So it's much easier for us to get on all the nuts and bolts, a good shot of everything. So that's why that's off, looks good. Right, okay, a little bit about safety first. First things first, do not just release the shock absorber before you get started and prepared on anything else, because the shock absorber limits and stops the axle from moving down and the spring pushing the axle down. So if you just undo that bolt, all the weight of the axle and any pressure in the spring is just going to push the whole lot whack straight down on you. So you will get hurt. Has to be supported. So what we do is we'll lift it up. I'll show you where to. Doesn't like lifting 2 tons of Land Rover. Right, that'll do. Quick mention of where to support it. If you're doing the front, axle stand just under there. Make sure you've got nice access for this big nut here, if you're doing the radius arm. And that's it really, you can lift it up underneath the diff, especially if you put a block of wood there, or you can lift it up one side at a time on that. Anywhere else you're comfortable lifting really. Just make sure you've got axle stands under the chassis so that's supported, because you'll need your jack to take the weight of the axle. And that's it really, you're only going to do one side at a time. So, I'll drop the car back down to sensible height and we'll get undoing nuts and bolts. Right, okay, first nuts and bolts. 4 bolts around the turret top, which you can undo, and there is no way, unless you've got the angriest gas shocks in the world, that you're going to damage yourself. So while I'm undoing these, I'll just point out, I've got the jack underneath the radius arm at the front. That's the equivalent of being on the chassis. Axle stands on the chassis. So the car's supported, using that lovely ratchet again that extends. Great top that is. So you can undo these 4 without damaging yourself. Once again, not using any air tools. Trying to keep it all ratchets and nuts and bolts, spanners and that's that. And you can see that with that unbolted, it's still being pulled down, which is the weight of the axle and the spring. So this is the point at which you would want it supported. If you're just changing changing the shock, keeping your turret, get your spanner on the top, and there's a flat in the thread. Can I have a look? There's a flat in the thread on top of the shock which you pinch, and then hopefully, all being well when it's not rusty. Oh yeah, WD-40. If you know you're doing the job, start soaking it up a week early. It really will make the difference between nuts and bolts coming undone when you want them to come off, and not. So lots of pain and suffering. Right, okay, so that's that. I'm not undoing that because what we're going to do now is I'm going to lift the car up and use a tall axle stand so we can get right underneath with the camera so you can see everything we've got to do under there. Right, okay, I've changed position so you can get a better look underneath where all the nuts and bolts are, and retaking the pressure with the transmission jack. Obviously you'll be doing it with your trolley jack, and that is now not under pressure, which means the jack's taking the pressure, squashing the spring up and the weight of the axle. So that's now safe to undo nuts and bolts. If they don't come undone, those bolts, going to be very difficult to get on the back too. So hopefully they'll snap, because when you buy your suspension stuff and your turret tops, plan ahead, buy the new bits and pieces you need. Assume nuts and bolts are going to snap, especially on Land Rovers, and you won't go wrong. Right, oh yes, if you do have to cut your nuts and bolts, 1mm grinding disc, cutting disc, superb bit of kit. Cheap old grinder, but 1mm cutting disc will go through anything like a knife through hot butter. Right, okay, so yes, that's that. Now, next pair of tools, we used it on the service DVD. Because we're changing the shocks, we're not particularly worried about how polite we are to them. They're nice and soft, the casings on these old ones. So I'm just pinching it up nice and tight. I've already loosened it and made a start, so you haven't got to watch me unwind nuts and bolts. Big nut underneath. I loosened it off with the 19mm end, 19mm ringed end, but don't unwind it all the way with the ringed end on, because it won't clear, you won't get it back out. Right, okay, so that's that. Nice, simple job so far, and hopefully, all being well, I've got a lever handy, all being well, spanner will do. That's the old shock. We'll lever up, that's not the right height for me now, so there we go, and lift off the top. There you have it. Slightly misted standard Land Rover shock. If you the bottom is a lot more solid, so if you are just changing a broken spring, get your clamps around the base of it. I've squashed some flats into that, took the paint off, so choice is yours, but at the end of the day you've got to do what you've got to do to get bits off and replace them. Yeah, that's nearing the end of its days, that turret top. Right, okay. Now, dangerous, because now that spring can let go. There's the shock absorber's not in there to stop it going anywhere we don't want it to go. So, let the jack down nice and steady. Nice and steady, shouldn't be a lot of pressure in it. Go. If you do get that, just leave the jack there. It can't go all the way down. Lovely. There's the old ring. That'd probably go again actually. Thread's just about usable. And there's one used Land Rover spring. Still got paint on the sticker on the top. Right, okay. You have a nose in there. And I'll get my tools ready and I'll come back and shoot the next bit. Back in a sec. Right, okay, we've got a spring out, so hopefully you're confident enough now that you can do it yourself. And now I've got to point out a few more details before we carry on. If you haven't got that kind of action, as in the axle appears to be supporting itself, then your bushes at the back are probably knackered. There's quite a lot of support in these bushes at the back. They take quite a lot of weight, even at that length. that reach. Right, okay, now before we take the other side apart, which we need to do to allow the axle to come down even further so we can get our new high lift springs in. Brake hoses, we've got to mention, safety issue. See that on full lock? It's like a guitar string. So if you're extending your suspension, lifting it by 2 inches, and definitely by 4 inches, you're going to snap brake hoses. So, we'll cover brakes on another DVD. This is just suspension at the moment, and how to change your springs. 50mm lift. I'll tell you what, we'll put the springs in and I'll assess that as an MOT tester, see what we think. Right, okay, so we've done that. That's all ready to go. Next job is release the other side so we can have the axle down low enough. I'll just show you why. Because we don't want to fight with anything. We want to use hydraulics in our brains to get the new bits in. So we want the axle down low enough that we can just plop that in there, plop it in the cup at the top with our new retaining ring, and then lift it back up with the jack, push it all into place, drop the shock absorber in from the top, and anchor it up. So, same brief with the other side, except move your axle stand. Obviously this is the one for use on the rack, transmission jack. Move your axle stand, hydraulic jack to the centre of your axle, so it's taking the weight and wobbling the Land Rover on the two poster. And now what I do is I release the other shock, undo the turret, and come back when we're ready to lower it down, and we'll watch our brake hoses and see what happens. Back in a sec. Right, okay, all the nuts and bolts are undone. This is now taking the weight, keeping the spring compressed, which is there. The nuts off the bottom. 3 out of 4 of the bolts on the top of the turret snapped, so that definitely needs a new ring, so something to think about before you get on with yours. Now, I'm just going to let it down, and that should separate. Obviously mine doesn't come out and hit you on the head, because the axle will come down a lot further now. And what I want you to watch, for those of you that don't want to break into your brake circuit, hydraulic circuit, is as it comes down, see the brake hose, both sides, and the jack is now coming away, which means the bushes at the back are doing their job. Okay, that's that. But now, that gives us enough slack to put the new springs in. So, what we will do is I'll whip the rest of this out, and we'll be back in a second. She'll be coming down. Right, okay, it's a new day. Done a little bit of painting where we've had the springs off, you can see. Left that overnight to go off. And now it's time for a few details. So, basically the biggest issue that we're going to have during this job is brake hoses. If you're going to go up considerably, then when you're ordering up your springs, you're going to have to get some brake hoses, because just safety wise it's worth doing. If you're putting standard springs back in, these are medium load plus 50mm in height, and it's possible to get them in no problem with the new ring. You push that up first, obviously. But what we're fitting in here is everything, so we've got to cover the whole lot. Dislocation springs, cones rather. Get it right. The new ring, have a closer look, the new ring goes up underneath like that, and then that pushes up through the hole, and then these are the twin shock mounts. Smart looking bit of kit. They go over the top like so, with the front part of the turret this side. Right, so with them up, it is now not possible to get the spring up without a load of aggro or spring compressor. Not really worth the aggro, putting the spring compressor up. So that's actually done. So I'm going to put the 4 nuts back on the top there, and then we'll cover the last bit. This is the bottom bracket, and I looked at it and it took me a minute to work out where it went, but it's quite simple. You undo that nut on the driver's side, and you've got the bracket there for the left-hand drive Panhard rods, and that bolts on there like so. So you get your normal shock through there, and your front shock down the outside. Nice simple bit of kit. Right, okay, we've got to take the brake calipers off because we need more clearance. So if you come in and have a look, I will show you where the bolts are, and if you want to know how to do it properly, it's on the service DVD. 2 bolts there, because we're going to do it without breaking into the hydraulic circuit. So you've got 2 bolts there that hold the bracket that keeps the flexible hose still, and then on the back of the caliper, in there's 2 bolts. I'll show you where the holes are when I take the caliper off. So we're going to take those 2 out, 2 bolts on the caliper, pull the caliper off, and then what I'll do is I'll use a cable tie to tie it up around there out of the way, and then we can drop the axle as far as we want to mess about as much as we want without risking ripping our brake hoses out, because if you turn that, if I turn that on full lock, it's like a guitar string, and that is most definitely very naughty. Right, okay, I'll be back in I'll bolt that up, I'll whip the caliper off both sides, and then I'll show you the other little component that is stopping the axle from just falling all the way down and giving us all the room we want. So I'll be back in a second. Right, okay, the calipers are off both sides. If you weren't using spring relocation cones, then you'd probably get away with sticking your spring in and your shock in without doing it. But as this is a comprehensive DVD, we're going to cover the lot and show you what different options we've got, and this is we're going to fit the twin shock mounts as well. So this is the first one, bolted up, good looking bit of kit, and now that just probably could lean on it and stress it enough to put the springs in, but that's not the way to do it. So what's stopping the axle from going down any further at the moment is the Panhard rod, which is the first set of poly bushes we're going to stick in. Oh, I'm forgetting what I'm saying for a minute. First set of poly bushes we're going to stick in. So we lift it up so we can get right underneath and cover that next. Let's go. Panhard rod. This one here. It's what holds the axle underneath the car, stops it. If that's the chassis and that's the axle, stops the axle from doing that. Right, that's a simple explanation. Now, what I was talking about preparation, I've loosened it's a nut and a bolt each end, it's quite simple, 22mm. And I've loosened them off, took the nut off that end, I've loosened the nut this end, and I tried to get the bolt out, but it is stuck in there. That bolt goes through a metal sleeve in the bush, and if it's rusted in there, it might as well be welded in there, you'll never get it out. So I didn't actually get a new bolt for it, got all the new poly bushes, all the nice new stuff to go in, but I didn't get a bolt, so we'll come back and film that. But the other side, come have a look. The other side has come out nicely. There's a nut on the back, it's 22mm, but it's not coming out, so I've got a smaller spanner, one that will fit under the head, and I'm just using it as a lever. Twist and pull. Right, lovely. Now we don't need to take both ends out to there we go. Oh. Pull it down and you can see the sleeve. See the sleeve there? That is absolute nightmare if that is rusted to the bolt. So what we're going to do with that one is use the grinder and the 1mm disc. But we'll get the springs done first, we'll come back to that. Right, okay. Now, we should have, this is why you don't want to do it with your calipers in, because that will definitely pull your brake hoses out. Right. Okay, super. Right, I'll drop the car and we'll put the springs in and push it back up. Back in a sec. Right, we're nearly ready to put the springs back up and the shocks back in. So, a little bit of prep work, a couple of tips. The old washers that were on the shock absorbers, they do like to rust themselves and stick themselves to the old axle. So make sure you pop the top one off and the bottom one, because you don't want to double up. Not really a problem, but you don't need to. Right, so that's that. Oh, these two bolts, bottom spring plate, because we are fitting spring retaining plates, and the reason they're this shape is because they go around the shock absorber. Because we're fitting heavy duty bottom spring retaining plates, these two bolts there, before you go any further, make life easy, squirt them up with WD-40, wind them all the way out, squirt them up with WD-40, wind them all the way back in, both of them, because we'll be doing that when the spring's back in and the weight's taken. One at a time, we'll cover that. But obviously, if they're nice and lubricated, they're going to come in and out a lot easier. Right, okay, down below, shock absorbers now. Let's get some of the stuff out of the way. Here's one I've already prepared. Terra Firma Pro Sport Long Travel with a bush washer and a bush, gator, washer, bush. That's what it's supposed to look like, so let's do one quickly. They come taped up because what they do, because they're gas shocks, you can see that extending on its own slowly. It's just a characteristic of them. Right, okay, rubber gator. In the top, if you want to have a look, in the top there is on one end there's a groove. The other one's just floppy. So I flop the end over because this washer will sit in the groove in the top. So I'll just show you how to do one, because all the shocks are the same principle. So different front and rear, but the same principle. Come on, get on. Just get out, it's filming that. Right, okay. A little bit fiddly. Get one end started in. Pinch that up and then just work it round. Work it round. Don't need any screws or screwdrivers or tools for it. If you've got enough finger strength. That's that. Okay, so that's captured in there now. Cable tie around the top. Don't overdo it. Just pinch it up. And then stretch your boot down below. I see Nada doing it, presenting it for the camera. Pull it over the shock. It was easy when I was kneeling, mate. Right. Got that like that. Probably nice job to have another pair of hands on, but my help is holding the camera, so anyway, we're just showing it can be done solo anyway. Okay, it only comes with two cable ties. I'll definitely use one on the top and maybe invest in another couple for the two to hold the bottom on. Right, that's that. Bit of wonderful stuff. Copper grease, smear it on, dish washer, dish faces downwards, rubber washer, and if you put some grease on this you won't get, further down the line you won't get that annoying rubber squeak noise, like a dry bush. Right, that's that. So one of them top and bottom, is that a front one? Yep. Show this once and then that's it done. It'll be the same for the rear shocks. Same principle. Right. Right, now we're ready to go. Right. So let's have a spring and another little couple of details. Now, the reason I bolted that on the top is because when you've got your inner wing on, the other side I've bolted up's got the inner wing on, it's a little bit more fiddly. But with them extended, when you probably